Well, y'all, this week we move one step closer to Easter. We're glad you're here for that. Welcome to the worship recap. If we haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name's Owen. I'm one of the pastors here at Fuquay-Varina United Methodist Church, and it's good to be together with you here. We've created this space intentionally so that wherever you are and whatever you're up to, you can we can help you carve out a portion of your week to worship. And so bravo to you for taking that work seriously. If this is your first time with us, your first time in a long time, certainly shoot us a text to the number there at the bottom of your screen or in the description below. Let us know that you're here. Let us know if we can help you out. If there's anything we can do, anything you hear today, feel free to just shoot us a text. We'd love to journey with you and all that. We got a couple of things I'd love to catch you up on if you missed worship this past week. A couple of things like that are pressing pieces of information. One, it's April. We've just launched our new April prayer focus and prayer practice. So I would encourage you to check that information out. Also, not this week, but next week is Holy Week, and we've got a ton of great worshipful opportunities. All those can be found on our website. You can see information there in front of you. I want to highlight a couple of things. The first is next week is Palm Passion Sunday, so we'll be celebrating that with some beautiful worship that morning. And then our kids that afternoon will have like a touchable, tangible version of that. If that's something you're interested in, make sure you register so that we can kind of get that all mapped out. And then we got worship on Thursday, on Friday, and we've got plenty of worship opportunities on Sunday. So I would really encourage you to be here on Thursday and Friday for worship and all these opportunities to come. I think you'll have a deeper and richer, more meaningful Easter as a result of it. So I would absolutely put all those things in front of you. And then finally, VBS registration goes live on the 6th. So definitely make sure you check that out. Again, all this information is available on our website, FVUMC.org. You can go there and check it out. While you're there, there's a button in the top right-hand corner that says Give. If you click on it, you can support the mission and ministry of the church that makes so many wonderful things happen. I do just like as a moment of intentional gratitude this week, want to celebrate last weekend. We had a ton of people here on campus doing some fantastic things. First was our clothing closet. And then after that came our Faith Action ID Drive and Health Fair. At the clothing closet, we had 457 people who came to pick up clothes. So a huge thank you to all of you who donated clothes, who were part of that, as well as to the 112 folks who showed up to volunteer, including, not to be excluded, of course, our youth who helped move all those clothes from the shed, get them sorted and where they needed to be. And then after the clothing closet, we had our community ID drive. We partnered together there with El Pueblo, which is an organization in Raleigh. We've been partnering with them for a while now, but they help folks get community IDs, which is helpful for people that don't have access to state or federal IDs. It's recognized by local organizations in the community, like the police department, libraries, and folks like that. So this is just a huge gift to folks. And while they were waiting for their IDs, they were able to go to a health and wellness kind of drive. We had 8 different organizations were here to talk about physical health, dental health, domestic violence, all sorts of wonderful, wonderful things. And so just really always grateful for our community partners when they come together. Again, we're not trying to do everything on our own, but this just provides us a way to work together with other like-minded folks so that we can, on behalf of Jesus, serve the entirety of our community. So grateful for those transformational community partnerships, for all the folks that showed up, and grateful to God for inviting us to be a part of this awesome work. Again, all this information and so much more on our website, FVUMC.org. You can check it out there. Text us if you got questions. And as we inch closer today to Easter, to that Holy Week we were talking about a second ago, I invite you to take a deep breath as we enter into worship, seeking God together.
Come to the well that never runs dry. Drink of the water, come and thirst no more.
Come all you sinners, come find His mercy. Come to the table, He will satisfy. Taste of His goodness, find what you're looking for.
For God so loved the world His one and only Son to save us. Whoever believes in Him will live forever. Oh yes, the power of hell forever defeated. Now it is well, I'm walking in freedom. For God so loved the world. Oh, bring all your failures, bring your addictions. Come lay them down at the foot of the cross. Jesus is waiting. God so loved the world.
Well, we're continuing along today in our series on seeking. The Gospels are full of stories when Jesus encounters people who are seeking something. Each of them is seeking something new, like a different life or a deeper faith. What unfolds in each of those stories is an exchange that gets filled with questions and exploration, and often in the midst of them, an unveiling occurs. Again, not to confuse things too much, but the word apocalypse comes from the Greek word which means unveiling, disclosure, or like a revelation. And so in its truest sense of the word, apocalypse is about revealing something that was previously hidden, especially like a divine truth or God's plan for the world. The sorts of unveilings we see in these stories lead to assumptions being disrupted, new perspectives revealed, and an increase of mystery rather than less. They're asking honest questions for a deeper faith. So I'm curious, what are you seeking? The encounter we're going to look at today is an honest question that comes from John the Baptist and kind of a coded response from Jesus. Here's how it goes. When John heard in prison what the Messiah was doing, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, "Are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another?" Jesus answered them, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, and the dead are raised, the poor have good news brought to them. And blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me." Are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another? Perhaps you remember a few months ago at Christmas, I realized that I understood very little about John the Baptist. I mean, for someone who features so prominently in all four Gospels, it was kind of surprising to me that I don't. I think part of the reason that I haven't spent much time getting to know John is because his moment in the sun is during Advent, and people always just want to hear about the birth of Jesus, so we kind of brush past him. Every Gospel writer tells some story of Jesus's beginning. Mark doesn't tell about his birth, and they all tell it very differently. But they all four say the same sorts of things about John. Why? I mean, it's clearly important, but what's that all about? And so I've been doing some study, and I think I'm getting closer to the answer. And so today this will be like an incomplete and ill-formed summary of where I am so far, but rest assured we're going to come back to it later on, I'm sure. To understand what's up with John, to better understand this encounter, his question, I think we have to go back to like the very beginning of the Bible, because that's where it starts. And it starts with the story that we call Exodus. Exodus means the road out, like an exit ramp. Specifically, this is a reference to the first part of the story of the Exodus, when God rescued the Israelites, the Jewish people, from slavery in Egypt. The moment of highest drama comes on the night that the people of God are liberated from Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, during what we call the Passover. They escape from their captors, they're on the run, and they come up to the edge of a body of water, the Sea of Reeds, with Pharaoh's army chasing them down right from the back, and they're stuck between the raging water and this raging army. And in that moment, God stretched out God's hand, and the waters are parted, revealing the dry land. And they run over those to safety on the other side. But the Exodus isn't just about the road out of Egypt. The whole story also includes the road through the wilderness and then a road into the promised land. Now, when they pass into the promised land, you get this kind of inverse drama like the one they had before. This time, instead of going through the water and into the wilderness, they're going from the wilderness through the Jordan River and into the land that God had promised. Again, God's hand kind of holds back the waters, revealing the dry land, and they walk through. Two things I want to briefly point out. The first is this. The Exodus story is the first time in the Bible we really hear the word salvation mentioned. We tend to think of salvation as like a thing that Jesus talks about, that Jesus came to offer us. We get saved when we give our life to Christ, or something like this. But God has been rescuing for a long, long time. God salvationed them at the edge of the sea. The second thing I want to point out is that we get the same words that are used in the Exodus story. They're used in the same sort of specific ways over and over and over again throughout the Bible to apply this kind of motif to many moments in the Bible. Even before the Exodus story itself, we hear about how God stretched out God's hand to liberate the dry land from the chaotic waters in creation. We hear about God doing the same thing when Noah is on the ark. Hand goes out, dry land reappears. Moses is placed in a basket, which is called an ark, and he is thus delivered through the waters of the Nile River. During Passover, people go into their house marked by the blood of a lamb. That house, also called an ark. They go into it, and when they do, they are salvationed from death. And then after the actual Exodus story, we pick up that same pattern. It just kind of continues over and over again. It seems like God's always having to rescue God's people because every time God gets us into the promised land, we seem to mess it up again. We become the thing that we were rescued from. They were salvation from Pharaoh, and then they become like Pharaoh. They were salvation from Babylon, and then they become like Babylon. In the book of Isaiah, who was a prophet in the Old Testament, he sings song after song about these types of rescues. Here's an example. When you come through the waters, I will be with you. That's a reference to Exodus. The rivers will not overwhelm you. That's a reference to the exile. They had to pass through the Euphrates River on their way back. So you see these two things are being held together. When you walk through the fire, Babylon was called a furnace in the Old Testament. Abraham's family left from Babylon. When you come through the fire, the flame will not consume you. This is a reference to exile. You hear how Isaiah is holding these things together, but Isaiah takes it one step further. He suggests a little bit later on that there will be a once and for all sort of salvationing from one who is to come, or the coming one. One who will no longer get us up and out of a land and then through a wilderness and back into a land or a place, but one who will change our hearts through repentance that will bring the sort of liberation that we actually need so we don't have to kind of keep reliving the same cycle over and over again. Here's a part where he says it in chapter 35. Say to those who are of fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. God will come, or the coming one will come with vengeance and terrible recompense. He will come, the coming one, and will save you, will salvation you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped, and the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. We hear him talk about the coming one in 59. And he will come to Zion as a redeemer, the coming one. To Jacob, who will turn or repent from transgression, says the Lord. Or in 42, listen, the former things have come to pass, and new things I now declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you about them, right? So there's these old things, this old pattern. We understand those things, but now I'm going to do a new thing. It springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And this new way will be heralded by someone. It says in chapter 40, a voice cries out, in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, the rough places like a plain. Then the glory of the Lord will be revealed. The coming one will be there, and all the people will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. All four of the gospel accounts say that John is the voice in the wilderness, baptizing in the Jordan River, proclaiming that the one who is coming is rolling into town on this highway that God built for us. This is John's vocation, his whole vocation, his purpose. And he knows it's Jesus. But when he sends his disciples to ask this question, he's in jail. And things to him don't look quite like they thought they might. And so he sends his disciples to ask the question, are you the coming one? Are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another? And Jesus answers him, and he quotes Isaiah 35 right back to him. So this is not a small question that he's asking. It's a cosmic question. And Jesus' answer is an unequivocal yes. And then, in what follows, if you were to read on, Jesus basically speaks to John's disciples and to his own. I mean, he's not really talking back to John, giving him an answer. I went to bed on this passage. I kind of stayed up late wrestling with it. And when I went to bed thinking about John. I had just had a conversation with a colleague who's been wrestling with a lot of doubt. Much like John, he's looking around and wondering how he can stand up on Sunday and talk about Jesus when nothing around him in the world seems to be changing for the good. I feel like he's asking, are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another? I don't know. I don't think this is the force of the question, or at least it certainly is less of Jesus' response. I'm wondering, as I go to sleep, if John asked the question more for himself or more for his disciples. Maybe less of a question born out of doubt and more a question intended to inspire action in them. When I woke up, I hit the snooze button a couple of times because I was still tired from the night before. I'm a big snooze button person. I don't know if you're a snooze button person. My wife is not. If you're not a snooze button person, then you cannot understand us, and we are okay with that. But while I was snoozing in the morning, I was still processing this moment. And when my alarm went off for the third or fourth time, I rolled over and asked it, are you the one who is to come, or am I to wait for another? And then I hit the snooze button with vengeance. And I wondered if this isn't exactly what John was trying to do, trying to wake up the world with this question. The coming one is here. The one who is to come has arrived. This once and for all solution, the rescuer, the salvation of God is in our midst. Do not wait for another one. Do not miss what is in front of you or misrepresent the things that your eyes are seeing. Is he trying to wake us up? There's something about this human tendency we have to try and find rescue and relief in all sorts of places, to kind of hit the snooze button on Jesus while we go off in search of some other salvation that we think we can provide for ourselves. And we miss the gift of life that's right in front of our faces. Next Sunday is the beginning of Holy Week. And from Sunday to Sunday, we're going to tell again the story of Jesus' rescue. Jesus is going to lean on the same Exodus themes that we just touched on. In fact, on Thursday night, he and his friends, his disciples, retell the story of the Exodus in a meal called a Seder, or a meal we've come to call communion or the Lord's Supper. In this meal, Jesus explains exactly what he's doing, and he invites us to give up on all those other places that we tend to try to seek solace and to put our whole trust in God and God alone, who was, and who is to come. And in this week, in this meal, is a chance for us to ask the same question that John's asked, and then to act on it. Whether we've been a follower of Jesus as long as we can remember, or whether we're considering what all of this means for us for the first time. And I hope that you'll take that work seriously. If you're looking for a tangible thing to do, Jesus and his disciples are going to read Psalm 113 through 118. If you want something to do that kind of encompasses this whole story, you can read those Psalms yourself. About a decade or so ago, I went to a wedding of one of my best friends, and I haven't forgotten the toast from his best man, his brother. His brother said that over and over again, as his older brother, when he was dating someone that he loved, he would come to his brother and he would say, how do you know if this is the one? And his brother said that every time he would talk him through it a bit, but that in the end he would tell him, don't worry, you'll just know. And then he said of his bride, from the night, I knew she was the one for him when he came home to introduce her and he didn't ask me the normal question, how do you know? And he said, because he just knew. This is my prayer for you, that in all of your seeking to know, you will come to just know the one who has come to rescue you. Grace and peace to you as we seek and find together.
God of Abraham, you're You're the God of covenant and faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you'll do just what you said.
Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass.
Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. He'll never let me down. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me.
Are you the coming one? Are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another? Whether this was a question of doubt and confusion, or whether this was an attempt to wake us up, I do not know. But I do pray for you and for me that as we inch closer and closer to Easter, we'll all take an opportunity to let it wake us up. And so that in all of our seeking to know, we may come to a place where we just know that Jesus has come. He's come for us to rescue, to offer salvation, and to offer the gift of life, even life that comes through death. Blessings on you as you head out into all the places that you live, work, and play. And may the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead go with you into all those places so that you can serve in His name and in His way. Amen. We'll see you next week.